Deep within the Kuiper Belt Observatory complex, Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her quantum detection array's readouts with growing concern. The gravitational distortion she was observing shouldn't exist, at least not naturally. After 20 years of searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, she'd finally found something. Unfortunately, it wasn't the peaceful first contact humanity had hoped for. The massive objects moving through the outer solar system were unmistakably warships. Their energy signatures pulsed with controlled fusion reactions that dwarfed the output of Earth's largest power plants. But instead of immediately alerting the media or causing global panic, Dr. Chen simply pressed a single button on her console. Operation Vigil had begun. Within minutes, encrypted quantum channels activated across Earth and its colonies, in underground bunkers, orbital stations, and hidden bases throughout the solar system. Men and women who had trained their entire lives for this moment calmly began their preparations. Humanity had spent the last 2 centuries preparing for first contact, whether peaceful or hostile. Admiral James Morrison sat in his office aboard the Lunar Defense Command, reviewing the incoming data. The alien fleet's formation suggested both technological sophistication and military precision. They were clearly experienced in warfare, but their approach revealed something crucial. They thought they were undetected. They're using some form of stealth technology, his AI assistant noted, highlighting energy patterns in the data stream. But they're only trying to mask themselves from radio and optical detection. They apparently don't realize we've mastered quantum detection. Morrison nodded, a grim smile crossing his weathered face. Humanity's apparent technological backwardness had been carefully cultivated for decades. While civilian technology remained relatively primitive, Earth's military capabilities had advanced in secret, guided by the singular purpose of defending against potential hostile contact. Begin Phase 1, Morrison commanded. Maintain civilian traffic patterns. Continue all regular communications. Let's not give our visitors any reason to think we've spotted them. Across the solar system, humanity's true defensive capabilities remained hidden. The massive shipyards of Titan continued their apparent construction of simple cargo vessels, while beneath the moon's surface, quantum-powered warships waited in specially shielded hangars. In the asteroid belt, what appeared to be mining operations were actually ammunition factories and fleet staging areas. The alien fleet belonging to the Meridian Concordat moved with predatory grace through the outer solar system. Their tactical officers observed what appeared to be a primitive civilization. Chemical rockets, basic space stations, and rudimentary colonies on Mars and the Moon. Their scans showed no energy shields, no gravitational weapons, and no faster-than-light capability. Fleet Commander Zarak felt almost disappointed. The intelligence reports had suggested humans might provide an interesting challenge, given their rapid technological advancement and unusual psychological profiles. But their military capabilities appeared to be centuries behind Meridian standards. Prepare the standard subjugation protocol, Zarak ordered. No need for a full battle deployment. Their primitive sensors won't detect us until we're already in orbit. But in her private quarters, Vice Commander Turlin felt uneasy. Something about the human traffic patterns seemed too perfect, too orderly. In her centuries of military service, she'd learned that emerging spacefaring races were usually chaotic, their space traffic reflecting their inexperience. The humans moved with an almost practiced precision. Back on Earth, in the Himalayan Command Center, General Maya Patel reviewed the final preparations for humanity's response. The Meridian fleet would reach Jupiter's orbit in approximately 72 hours. Their current course would bring them straight through the heart of humanity's most elaborate defensive trap. Status of the quantum fold arrays, she asked her staff. All 36 arrays are powered and synchronized, General. The gravity lens projectors are charged and ready. Ghost fleet protocols are standing by. Patel allowed herself a moment of pride. Human military doctrine had evolved far beyond the crude warfare of centuries past. They had learned to fight not just with weapons, but with physics itself. The arrays hidden throughout the solar system could manipulate spacetime in ways that would make Sun Tzu himself smile in appreciation. As the alien fleet approached, humanity's greatest advantage remained intact: the enemy's absolute certainty of their own superiority. They would learn, as so many human adversaries had throughout history, that appearance and reality were often very different things. In orbit around Neptune, automated sensor platforms tracked the Meridian fleet's progress while appearing to be nothing more than primitive weather satellites. The countdown to humanity's greatest test had begun. The question wasn't whether Earth could fight. It was how long they could maintain the deception before revealing their true capabilities. Dr. Chen watched the final preparations from her observatory, remembering the decades of sacrifice and secrecy that had led to this moment. Humanity had united in ways previously thought impossible, all in preparation for this day. Now they would show the galaxy why underestimating humans was a potentially fatal mistake. The Meridian fleet crossed Jupiter's orbit with the confident precision of predators who had conquered countless worlds. Their massive ships, each the size of a small moon, moved in perfect geometric formations that had struck fear into the hearts of 100 species. Fleet Commander Zarak watched the approaching inner solar system with his 4 primary eyes, mandibles clicking in anticipated triumph. Curious, his sensor officer reported, the humans appear to be conducting routine mining operations in the asteroid belt. They show no signs of detecting our presence. Zarak's carapace rippled with amusement. Such primitive beings, still scraping resources from rocks while the Meridian Concordat harvested entire stars. The fleet's stealth systems were merely a formality at this point, like hiding from insects. In the asteroid belt, what appeared to be a simple mining operation was anything but routine. Captain Elena Santos watched the alien fleet's approach from her command center deep within Syrah's base. The massive excavation machines moving across the asteroid's surface were actually quantum-linked weapon platforms in disguise. All Ghost web nodes are synchronized, her tactical officer reported. Quantum entanglement fields are stable and undetected. The Meridians are reading exactly what we want them to see. Santos nodded, remembering her years of training for this moment. The Ghost Web was humanity's masterpiece of deception, a vast network of quantum-linked satellites and weapons platforms that could appear and disappear at will, thanks to controlled manipulation of spacetime itself. Begin Phase 2. Admiral Morrison's voice came through the quantum-encrypted channel. Let's give our visitors their first subtle hint that something isn't quite right. Throughout the asteroid belt, mining ships suddenly began experiencing technical difficulties. Their movements, previously precise and predictable, became erratic. To the Meridian fleet sensors, it appeared that solar radiation was merely disrupting primitive human navigation systems. Vice Commander Turlin's unease grew as she analyzed the pattern of malfunctions. Commander, these disruptions, they're creating gaps in our sensor coverage. The pattern seems irrelevant. Zarak interrupted. A primitive species having trouble with their equally primitive equipment. Maintain course for Mars orbit. But Turlin had survived 3 centuries of warfare by trusting her instincts. The gaps in their sensor coverage were too perfectly placed, the malfunctions too conveniently timed. She began running deeper analysis protocols, trying to pierce the veil of what appeared to be simple chaos. In lunar orbit, Admiral Morrison watched the Meridian fleet's reaction through quantum sensors that the aliens didn't even know existed. They're maintaining course, he reported to the Earth Defense Council. Time to show them why humanity has always excelled at asymmetric warfare. The first true revelation of humanity's capabilities came not with a bang, but with an impossibility. As the Meridian fleet passed Mars, their sensors detected a brief anomaly. A flicker of something that shouldn't exist. For a fraction of a second, their gravitational sensors registered a mass equivalent to a small star, which then vanished as if it had never been. Sensor malfunction, Zarak declared confidently. Run diagnostics. But before his crew could comply, another impossible reading appeared, this time lasting 2 seconds. Then another, and another. The phantom signatures began appearing and disappearing across the solar system in a pattern that defied explanation. What the Meridians didn't know was that they were witnessing humanity's quantum fold technology in action. By briefly folding space-time itself, human ships and weapons could appear to have impossible mass readings, creating a web of sensor ghosts that slowly began to drive the aliens' targeting systems into confusion. Dr. Chen monitored the operation from her observatory, watching as centuries of theoretical physics were put into practical military use. The quantum fold arrays weren't just weapons, they were a fundamental reimagining of how space warfare could be conducted. They're beginning to adjust their formation, General Patel noted from her command center. Right on schedule. Time to introduce them to the concept of human misdirection. Across the asteroid belt, the malfunctioning mining ships suddenly regained control of their systems. But now their movements formed new patterns that the Meridians' tactical computers would recognize as primitive attempt at combat formations. "They've spotted us," Zarak declared with satisfaction. "Prepare for standard subjugation protocols. Their attempts at resistance will be brief and educational." The Meridian fleet began deploying their smaller combat vessels, spreading out to engage what they thought was a pathetically outmatched opponent. Their formation was perfect, their strategy time-tested across 1,000 conquests. It was exactly what humanity had planned for. Deep beneath Europa's icy surface, Commander Sarah O'Reilly watched the alien fleet's deployment with grim satisfaction. Her submarine carriers, massive vessels designed to hide in the moon's subsurface ocean, were humanity's true first line of defense. The aliens had just positioned themselves perfectly for humanity's first real strike. "All ghost web nodes are in position," she reported through the quantum channel, ready to begin Operation Phantom Wake. The real battle was about to begin, and the Meridians were about to learn why Sun Tzu had written that all warfare is based on deception. Humanity had spent centuries preparing not just weapons, but an entirely new form of combat that their enemies couldn't even comprehend. Operation Phantom Wake began with a whisper. Beneath Europa's ice, Commander O'Reilly's submarine carriers activated their quantum drive systems. The massive vessels didn't so much move through the water as they shifted through probability itself, their quantum engines allowing them to exist in multiple states simultaneously. "Execute emergence pattern Delta," O'Reilly ordered. "Let's show them why humans never abandoned submarine warfare. We just took it to space." The Meridian fleet's first warning came as their sensor arrays detected unusual crystalline formations in Europa's ice. Before they could analyze the readings, the ice exploded outward in perfectly calculated patterns. But instead of debris, hundreds of smaller vessels emerged, their hulls covered in metamaterials that bent light and gravity around them. "Impossible," Zarak hissed, his mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. "Their technology level cannot support such vessels. Our intelligence reports were exactly what we wanted you to see." Admiral Morrison's voice cut through all Meridian communication channels. The humans had broken their encryption as if it hadn't existed. "Welcome to humanity's real space force." The vessels emerging from Europa demonstrated combat maneuvers that the Meridians had never encountered. Using principles derived from fluid dynamics and quantum mechanics, the human ships moved through space as if it were an ocean, creating gravitational eddies and waves that disrupted the aliens' targeting systems. Vice Commander Terlin watched in growing horror as the human vessels executed what appeared to be impossible turns, their quantum drives allowing them to shift position without traditional acceleration. "They're not just using stealth technology," she realized. "They're manipulating probability itself." In the Himalayan Command Center, General Patel activated the next phase of humanity's defense plan. "Execute Operation Quantum Mirror," she commanded. "Show them why we spent so much time studying the double-slit experiment." Across the solar system, the quantum fold arrays activated in perfect synchronization. Space itself seemed to ripple as hundreds of phantom signatures appeared, each one an exact quantum duplicate of a human vessel. The Meridian Fleet's tactical computers began to fail as they tried to track targets that existed in multiple states simultaneously. Their combat doctrine is incomprehensible, Turlin reported, her military training struggling to adapt to what she was witnessing. They're not fighting according to any known tactical doctrine. It's as if they're playing jazz. Dr. Chen smiled as she monitored the battle from her observatory. Humanity had learned long ago that the key to survival wasn't just technological advancement. It was the ability to improvise, to create new patterns that enemies couldn't predict. The submarine carriers, now fully emerged, revealed their true purpose. Each vessel was a platform for dozens of smaller craft that combined the principles of submarine warfare with quantum mechanics. They moved through space using gravitational currents that they themselves created, making their trajectories impossible to calculate. Commander O'Reilly's flagship led the first real attack run. Her vessel's quantum state generators created a corridor of altered probability through which smaller attack craft could move. To the Meridian sensors, it appeared as if human ships were phasing in and out of existence, appearing at impossible angles and firing weapons that shouldn't exist. Traditional targeting is useless, Turlin reported, her voice tight with stress. Their ships appear to be in multiple locations simultaneously. We cannot establish weapons lock. The human attack craft demonstrated why they had spent centuries studying both quantum mechanics and fluid dynamics. They moved through space as if it were water, creating gravitational vortexes that pulled Meridian ships off course and disrupted their formation. Admiral Morrison watched from Lunar Command as the first phase of actual combat unfolded. "Begin the Psy-War protocols," he ordered. "Let's show them why humans have always excelled at psychological warfare." Across the battlefield, human quantum communications began broadcasting directly into Meridian command and control systems. But instead of threats or demands, they transmitted something far more terrifying: human laughter. The sound of human joy in battle, transmitted on all frequencies, began to erode the Meridian crew's confidence. "They're not just fighting us," Zarek realized with growing dread. "They're enjoying this. They've been waiting for this moment." The true horror of humanity's preparation began to dawn on the Meridian command staff. Every move they made had been anticipated. Every standard combat doctrine they attempted was met with counters that seemed to defy physics itself. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were conducting warfare on a level that the Meridians hadn't known was possible. In her command center, General Patil allowed herself a small smile as she watched the Meridian fleet's perfect formation begin to break down. "Humanity has spent its entire history fighting itself," she mused. "We learned long ago that the key to victory isn't just having better weapons. It's having weapons your enemy can't understand." The battle was far from over, but as Dr. Chen watched from her observatory, she knew that the galaxy was about to learn a crucial lesson. Humanity's apparent technological backwardness had been the greatest deception of all. They hadn't been falling behind a galactic community. They had been preparing for this exact moment, developing forms of warfare that no other species had even imagined. The Meridian fleet's perfectly ordered battle formation had devolved into chaos. Their rigid military hierarchy, once a source of pride, now proved to be their greatest weakness. Every decision had to flow through proper channels. Every response had to follow established protocols, and the humans were exploiting this inflexibility with devastating effectiveness. Multiple quantum signatures detected. A sensor officer called out, their voice trembling with stress. "No, they're gone. Now they're behind us. Impossible readings from all vectors." Fleet Commander Zarak watched his tactical display with growing horror as human vessels seemed to ignore the basic laws of physics. Their ships didn't just move through space. They appeared to fold it, creating shortcuts that shouldn't exist. Each time the Meridians adjusted their formation to counter a threat, they found themselves responding to shadows, while the real attacks came from impossible angles. In the depths of Europa, Commander O'Reilly orchestrated humanity's quantum ballet. "Execute Protocol Schrödinger," she ordered. Let's show them why we spent so much time studying quantum superposition. The human fleet's quantum drives synchronized, creating a cascading wave of probability fluctuations. To the Meridian sensors, it appeared as if each human ship existed in multiple states simultaneously, both there and not there, moving and stationary, attacking and defending all at once. Vice Commander Turlin felt her military training crumbling in the face of warfare she couldn't comprehend. "They're not just using technology we don't understand," she reported to Zarak. "They're using our own psychology against us. Every time we establish a pattern, they turn it into a trap." In lunar orbit, Admiral Morrison watched the psychological impact of humanity's tactics unfold. "Begin Phase 4, he commanded. "Show them why humans have always understood that warfare is as much about the mind as it is about weapons." The quantum communications network that had been broadcasting human laughter now began transmitting something else: the collected history of human warfare. The Meridian command staff found their neural interfaces flooded with images and data about thousands of years of human conflict. They saw how humans had evolved from simple tribal warfare to nuclear standoffs, how they had learned to fight with everything from sticks to probability waves. "These beings," Zarak whispered, his mandibles trembling, "they've spent their entire history preparing for this moment. Even their primitive periods were just practice." Dr. Chen monitored the data streams from her observatory, watching as centuries of human military theory were weaponized against the invaders. Sun Tzu's teachings about deception, Clausewitz's principles of fog and friction, modern quantum warfare doctrine, all of it blended into a symphony of controlled chaos that the Meridians couldn't comprehend. The breaking point came when humanity revealed the true purpose of the ghost web. What the Meridians had thought were simple sensor phantoms suddenly gained substance. The quantum-entangled network could now transmit actual matter, allowing human ships to seemingly teleport across vast distances by routing through the quantum-linked nodes. "Multiple breaches in our formation," Turtland's tactical officers reported in panic. "Human vessels they're everywhere at once. We can't maintain defensive coherence." General Patel watched from her command center as the Meridian fleet's sophisticated battle network began to tear itself apart. Their rigid command structure, faced with enemies that seemed to break the laws of physics, started to collapse under its own weight. "Send in the probability lancers," she ordered. These were humanity's elite quantum warriors. Pilots specially trained to exist in multiple quantum states, their consciousness spread across probability space. Their ships moved through reality like needles through fabric, appearing where they were least expected and most feared. Commander O'Reilly's submarine carriers now revealed their final form. The vessels split apart, each section becoming an independent quantum state generator. They created a web of altered probability through which human ships could move freely while Meridian vessels found themselves trapped in pockets of distorted spacetime. "They're not just defeating us," Zarak realized with growing despair. "They're rewriting the rules of warfare itself. Every doctrine we've developed, every strategy we've perfected across centuries of conquest, is useless against an enemy that turns chaos into an art form." Turlin finished. The Meridian vice commander watched as another squadron of their ships found themselves trapped in a quantum probability loop, unable to choose a single course of action as reality itself seemed to multiply around them. From her observatory, Dr. Chen understood what the Meridians were experiencing. Humanity had spent centuries appearing primitive while secretly developing ways to weaponize the quantum nature of reality itself. They hadn't just prepared for war. They had reinvented it on a fundamental level. The Meridian fleet's breaking point had arrived. Their perfect formation was now in shambles, their command structure paralyzed by an enemy that seemed to exist everywhere and nowhere at once. As their ships tried to retreat, they found even that simple action impossible. The humans had turned space itself into a weapon, and every movement only entangled them further in humanity's quantum web. The remnants of the once mighty Meridian fleet hung in space like broken crystals, their perfect formation shattered by an enemy they had gravely underestimated. Fleet Commander Zarak stood on his command podium, all four eyes fixed on the quantum communication request from Earth's Defense Command. After nearly 6 hours of battle, the inevitable had arrived. "This is Admiral Morrison of the Earth Defense Force." The human's voice carried no trace of triumph or arrogance. "Your fleet is surrounded by quantum state generators. Further resistance would only result in unnecessary casualties. We offer terms." In the Himalayan Command Center, General Patel watched the Meridian flagship's response. The alien vessel's crystalline structure had dulled, its once proud iridescence now reflecting the harsh reality of defeat. "They're powering down weapons," her tactical officer reported. "Quantum field harmonics show they're accepting standard communication protocols." Vice Commander Turlin, now acting as the fleet's primary negotiator, faced the human representatives through the quantum link. "We greatly underestimated your species," she admitted, her mandibles moving in patterns that indicated deep respect. "The galaxy must know of this day." Dr. Chen observed the proceedings from her observatory, understanding that this moment would reshape galactic politics forever. "They came expecting to find primitives," she noted to her staff. "Instead, they found humanity at its most innovative and most terrifying." The terms humanity offered were surprisingly generous. The Meridian fleet would be allowed to return home, minus their quantum weaponry and with monitoring devices installed. But the real price was diplomatic. The Meridian Concordat would have to acknowledge humanity as a peer power and share the truth about their defeat. "You must understand," Admiral Morrison explained to the alien commanders, "we never wanted war. Everything we developed, every advancement we kept hidden, was for defense. Humanity learned long ago that the best way to prevent war is to make it unthinkable." In lunar orbit, Commander O'Reilly's submarine carriers began powering down their quantum state generators. The massive vessels, now visible to conventional sensors, drew gasps of astonishment from the Meridian crew. Their design incorporated principles of fluid dynamics that the aliens had never considered applying to space warfare. "Your entire civilization," Turlin observed, "it was all a deception. The primitive chemical rockets, the basic colonies, all of it carefully crafted to hide your true capabilities." "We learned from our own history," General Patel replied. "When technologically advanced civilizations meet less developed ones, the results are often tragic. We decided to appear weak while building strength in secret. Your invasion fleet wasn't just defeated, it was part of a test we've been preparing for since we first looked to the stars." The implications of humanity's victory rippled through galactic society faster than light itself. Other spacefaring races, many of whom had dismissed Earth as a backwater world, suddenly found themselves reevaluating everything they thought they knew about human civilization. The quantum communications network that had been used for psychological warfare now served a new purpose. Humanity began broadcasting technological and cultural information freely, revealing the true scope of their achievements. The message was clear. They had nothing left to hide. "We don't seek conquest," Admiral Morrison addressed the gathered representatives of various galactic powers. "What we seek is understanding." Today proved that different species can have radically different approaches to technology and warfare. Perhaps now we can explore those differences peacefully. In the months that followed, delegations from across the galaxy arrived at Earth. They came not as conquerors or superiors, but as equals eager to learn from a civilization that had reimagined the very nature of space warfare. The quantum-fold technology that had so devastated the Meridian fleet was adapted for peaceful purposes, revolutionizing interstellar travel and communication. Dr. Chen found herself serving as Earth's chief scientific liaison to the galactic community. The greatest victory, she often told her alien colleagues, wasn't in the battle itself. It was in proving that appearing primitive doesn't mean being primitive. Humanity had simply chosen a different path of advancement. The Meridian Concordat, humbled but wiser, became one of Earth's strongest allies. Their rigid military doctrine evolved, incorporating lessons learned from human innovation and adaptability. Vice Commander Turlin, promoted after the battle, established the first joint human Meridian military academy. The legacy of this conflict, she told her first class of mixed-species students, isn't about victory or defeat. It's about understanding that true advancement comes in many forms. The humans didn't just develop new technology, they developed new ways of thinking about technology. As humanity finally took its place among the galactic powers, they brought with them lessons learned from centuries of preparing for this moment. Their message to the galaxy was clear: peace through strength, innovation through necessity, and progress through understanding. The stars themselves seemed brighter now, illuminating a future where different species could learn from each other's strengths rather than exploit perceived weaknesses. Humanity had proved that appearing primitive was not the same as being primitive, and in doing so, they had changed the galaxy forever.